Sure. So, thinking about this particular question, so preschool typically before kindergarten, first grade, depending on the school system. So this is still supposed to be a time when academics are not as heavily emphasized. So in preschool, I would hope many preschoolers are still playing and exploring and laughing and giggling and running and, the types of things that we think of often when we think of child, or I hope people think of when they think of childhood. And I do think that a lot of parents of children at this age and caregivers are concerned that a child's behavior at age 3, age 4 is somehow then linked to their future success in their careers, in their, higher education, if you will, if that's the path, because that's the message that gets sent out in a lot of traditional societies. You must do this so that you will therefore be college and career ready. Those are the words I often hear. So the number one thing I would love a tip for all parents is, first of all, to breathe. So that's sort of before you even get to the tips. Breathe and enjoy, because this time goes so fast. So the first tip would really be to be present with your children, whether that means reading with your children, walking with your children, lying and staring at the stars with your children, but being present together, because the time again feels very precious these days. And I think having time, it doesn't even have to be time with purpose, although that's easy. For children and parents to think about, like, we have this much time, but really trying to slow down, walk, cook, whatever activities we can think of with children. And a lot of times also caregivers feel like children are so demanding, if you will. Uh, but even reading a bedtime story, not really rushing through it, but enjoying those moments, even if we're absolutely exhausted at the end of the day. So I don't think parents and caregivers will regret the extra time spent with the little ones. And I do think the children will remember it, even if they don't have a memory of it. They'll feel it in their senses and so on. So that would be the first one. And then another one would be to set goals with your children. So these can be, again, longer term or the short term goals. And the reason for that is not so that there can be an outcome that has some sort of high stakes attached to it, but really helping children to recognize that whatever the goal might be, walking to school alone, cooking myself breakfast for the first time, doing laundry in the house, getting to use a machine, or hanging out on the line to dry, whatever that is, helps children develop a sense of confidence and self-efficacy and feel like they're contributing in really meaningful ways. So
Yeah.
even as we were just thinking about the balance between self and the group, I think it's really important to help children recognize that they have the capacity to do things for self and
Mhm.
others, of course, as well. And then a third tip that I have for parents of preschoolers, it sort of circles back to the original one, when we feel like children might be falling behind in some way, or people are always so future focused, if you will. So I was thinking just this morning, in fact, about the phrase, "I have an idea," and how wonderful it is when children have ideas, even though those ideas might have been discovered a million times before over many centuries. For the child who, for the first time, has an idea, what do you think? How powerful that is for parents to figure out, what do their children think? How do they solve problems? So, when they're walking or talking and children are noticing things, what do you think? Why do you think? So asking these kind of open-ended questions with children. Um, and I think that might sound so simple, but in fact, we're often either leading children to an answer or expecting them to follow along with what we know the outcome will be. But what about really focusing on the process and listening to them and letting them have those ideas? So that would be my third tip for parents and caregivers. I have an idea.